Caracas, Venezuela. Antonio Ledezma, a prominent opposition leader in Venezuela who had been placed under house arrest on sedition charges, escaped on Friday morning and fled to neighboring Colombia, where the authorities allowed him to enter. Calling the trip an odyssey and likening it to a movie plotline, Mr. Ledezma, in a brief televised interview after his border crossing, said that he had somehow managed to evade detection while passing through more than 29 posts manned by members of Venezuela's security forces. "I am going to defend the liberty of Venezuela," he told reporters in Colombia. "I'm more useful to Venezuela in the street." Mr. Ledezma's flight was hailed by Venezuela's political opposition and its sympathizers around the world as a boost for their fight and a major embarrassment for the administration of President Nicolas Maduro, who, with the support of loyal jurists, has sought to silence opponents through imprisonments and other means, including the creation of a new legislative body that essentially neutered the old one dominated by opposition parties. The politician's warm reception by the Colombian authorities will likely worsen the tense relations between the two neighbors. "Welcome to liberty," Andrés Pastrana, a former president of Colombia, said on Twitter. "We need you free in the world, defending liberty, human rights and democracy, and not a prisoner by the narco-dictatorship of Nicolas Maduro." Mr. Ledezma was arrested in February 2015 while he was mayor of Caracas, on accusations that he and the United States had plotted to topple Mr. Maduro's government. He and the United States denied the charges. Mr. Ledezma's allies saw the detention as an attempt by Mr. Maduro to weaken the opposition before legislative elections later that year. Until his escape on Friday morning, Mr. Ledezma had been held under house arrest without trial since 2016, except for a brief interim imprisonment following a dramatic late-night raid on his house in August. It remained unclear how he managed to escape on Friday, but the Colombian government said he crossed the border by way of the Simon Bolivar International Bridge, which connects the Venezuelan city of San Antonio del Táchira with the Colombian town of Villa Rosario. Relations between the two countries have been very tense. Earlier this year, Colombia's president, Juan Manuel Santos, recalled his ambassador to Caracas and labeled the Maduro administration a dictatorship. Mr. Maduro's jailing of his opponents has been widely criticized by foreign governments and democracy advocates worldwide, and the Trump administration used it as a justification for imposing sanctions this year against Mr. Maduro and dozens of officials in his government. In preparing targeted sanctions of their own this week, the foreign ministers of the European Union demanded the liberation of all political prisoners in Venezuela. Alfredo Romero, head of Foro Penal, a human rights group in Venezuela, said on Friday that when Mr. Maduro took office in 2013, there were only 11 jailed opposition activists. He called them political prisoners. That number rose to 676 in August, at the height of the anti-government protests earlier this year, he said. Following the election of the new, all-powerful legislative body, the Constituent Assembly, Mr.